The Deck of Many Things is a legendary magic item in Dungeons & Dragons, and it has a terrible reputation. Be wary, DMs, this item can single-handedly unravel a campaign. If you want to destroy the entire campaign, accept no substitute. If you're going to DM with this item, change how it works, add your own cards, remove certain cards, don't just let it destroy your campaign. Bruh. These are some of the top comments on the D&D Beyond page for the Deck of Many Things. Are there multiple cards with negative effects? Yes. Most of them, actually. But several of these cards have little to no effect based on how people play the game today. Emphasis on today because this item was first published back in 1975, almost 50 years ago in Gary Gygax's first Greyhawk booklet as a supplement for original D&D, and then republished in the 1979 Advanced D&D Dungeon Master's Guide. And surprisingly, the mechanical changes are pretty subtle between this version and what we have today in the 5e Dungeon Master's Guide. But while the mechanics haven't changed a lot, there are a few cards that have become radically more or less powerful based on the way playstyles have changed around those mechanics over the last few decades. Still, I'm convinced that only like 2 of these 22 cards could potentially ruin a campaign, and even then only depending on how the players choose to use them. The main cards you'll want to avoid, however, for a very different reason, are the last 3 that we'll break down in this video. So go ahead, this is the perfect time to share your opinions in the comments about which cards you think have the worst effects. But my main goal with this video is to both expose the history of this item and demystify the Deck of Many Things, to prove that while some of these cards have extreme consequences, the Deck of Many Things is not a guaranteed campaign destroyer. And I want to break that misconception so you will actually use it in your game and get to partake in this wondrous and dangerous but fun experience that transcends generations of D&D. Because I'm Bob, this is where we learn how to have more fun playing D&D together. And first, when you use this item in your game, you can represent it with a normal deck of cards. But since there are about 20 cards, you might as well number them and just roll for your result using your very own set of official Bob World Builder dice. They have my logo on the bag, they have a little world on the 20, and of course, a destroyed world on the 1 of the D20, and I'm so happy with how they came out. This is my first physical merchandise ever, and I partnered with OnlyCrits to make the highest quality dice for the best possible price. When I made a poll about this months ago, price was the main concern, and I'm proud to say that OnlyCrits got it below that initial estimate. But here's the thing, we only made 500 sets of these beautiful little dice, and when they're gone, they're gone. So I hope you check them out. And as always, you can use code BOB to save 18%. Now, here's the deck according to 5e. Usually found in a box or pouch, this deck contains a number of cards made of ivory or vellum. Most, 75% of these decks, have only 13 cards, but the rest have 22. And it's cool to see how some of this language comes directly from AD&D, usually contained in a box or leather pouch. Sheets of ivory and vellum. The deck will contain either 13 or 22, 75%/25% chance. But we'll continue with the 5e description because it's a lot less dense and wordy. Before you draw a card, you must declare how many cards you intend to draw, and then draw them randomly. You could use an altered deck of playing cards to simulate the deck. Any cards drawn in excess of this number have no effect. Otherwise, as soon as you draw a card from the deck, its magic takes effect. You must draw each card no more than 1 hour from the previous draw. If you fail to draw the chosen number, the remaining number of cards fly from the deck on their own and take effect all at once. Once a card is drawn, it fades from existence. Unless the card is the Fool or the Jester, the card reappears in the deck, making it possible to draw the same card twice. As far as I can tell, the only mechanical difference in this overview part of the item is the addition of a 1-hour time limit to draw the card. And I can only guess this is because long ago some players declared the number of cards they would draw and then said, well, it doesn't say when I have to draw the card. Also, 5e, or maybe 3e, depending on when this changed, altered the physical details, describing this item as being a straight-up deck of cards, where the AD&D version uses the words sheets, plaques, and cards all interchangeably. But let's just get into the effects. I'm going to read each card's 5e version, followed by its 1e version, and then we'll compare and contrast and make adjustments to make sure they're all fun. Balance. Your mind suffers a wrenching alteration, causing your alignment to change. Lawful becomes chaotic, good becomes evil, and vice versa. If you are true neutral or unaligned, this card has no effect on you. Balance. Change alignment or be judged. As weighed in the balance and found wanting, the character must change and perform accordingly to a radically different alignment, i.e., lawful becomes chaotic, good becomes evil, neutral becomes non-neutral. Failure brings judgment, and if there is substantial deviation from the professed alignment, the character will be destroyed permanently. The first red flag is that Gygax recommends killing characters who don't abide by this alignment shift, but the underlying problem of this card today is that very few D&D groups even use alignment in meaningful character-driving ways. Last year, 10,000 people answered my poll about this, and only 24% said alignment is important in their games. So changing this largely unused character trait for only one member of the party will not ruin your campaign. If you really want to make this card significant, have it reverse the major alignment of a major NPC. Your big bad evil guy becomes a small good guy. Comment. If you single-handedly defeat the next hostile monster or group of monsters you encounter, you gain experience points enough to gain 1 level. Otherwise, this card has no effect. Comment. Defeat the next monster you meet to gain 1 level. The player must single-handedly defeat the next monster, singular or plural, of hostile nature, or the benefit is lost. If successful, the character moves to the midpoint of the next experience level. The first issue here is that 5e has come to define monster and hostile much more broadly. See my video about the 1D&D influence action. But in 5e terms, a frustrated human commoner innkeeper is by definition a hostile monster, who must then be defeated single-handedly to gain this benefit. The other problem is that this benefit is experience points, because according to a different poll of 16,000 people who I ran this for last year, 76% rely solely on milestone leveling. Only 6% use strictly combat XP, and 15% use a combination of methods. But obviously the point of this card is to grant a level if the character defeats the next bad guy they face. So it's okay. However, most people, and I don't have a poll to back this one up, but I can confidently say that most D&D groups today level up every character in the party at the same time, and everyone is always the same level, because the balance of power has become incredibly important to a lot of players, and it's fun when everybody just gets new abilities at the same time. Meanwhile, Advanced Dungeons & Dragons was designed with the opposite intention. Each class leveled up at different rates, so it was pretty common to have a mix of levels within the party, and one character suddenly getting a whole level would just be exciting, because it still meant that the party as a whole became more powerful. So even though this would be weird to most players today, I think this kind of weirdness, especially with it being a positive weird thing, is perfectly fine with a deck of many things. Jester. You gain 10,000 XP, or you can draw 2 additional cards beyond your declared draws. Jester. Gain 10,000 experience points or 2 more draws from the deck. This plaque actually makes either pack more beneficial if the experience point award is taken. It is always discarded when drawn, unlike all others except the Fool. Basically, Gygax was saying 10,000 XP is good and you should take it, because drawing 2 cards instead makes you more likely to get a negative result, especially since the deck is skewed toward negative outcomes. On the other side of the coin, though, we have the Fool card. You lose 10,000 XP, discard this card, and draw from the deck again, counting both draws as one of your declared draws. If losing that much XP would cause you to lose a level, instead, you lose an amount of XP that leaves you with just enough XP to keep your level. Cool. Lose 10,000 experience points, draw again. The payment and draw are mandatory. The thing about these 2 cards is that we're focused on experience points, which most groups don't use. But if we look at the level advancement charts from 5e and 1e, we can see that from about levels 1 to 7, gaining or losing 10,000 XP would be the equivalent of 1 or multiple level changes, while above level 7, it's not quite as extreme. So my change would be that these cards make lower level characters gain or lose 1 level, and higher level characters gain or lose a skill proficiency of their choice, which also makes it feel a little more thematic for the Jester and the Fool. Plus, I'd say for both cards, you draw another card, really making them like opposites in the deck. Now, following this theme of XP being outdated, Sun. You gain 50,000 XP and a wondrous item, which the GM determines randomly, appears in your hands. Sun. Gain beneficial miscellaneous magic item and 50,000 experience points. Roll on the miscellaneous magic table 3.e.1 to 5, okay, whatever, until a useful item other than artifacts or relics is indicated. Player gets experience points for this as well. 50,000 XP is pretty serious stuff. In 5e, that takes you from level 1 to 9, and in AD&D from level 1 to 6 or 7, depending on your class. But where 5e only gets to a few 100,000 XP at level 20, AD&D went into millions of experience points. So this card became far less valuable at higher levels in that older edition of the game. Regardless, people today probably aren't using XP, so we have to make other adjustments based on the character's tier. I'd say something like low-level characters gain 1 level and an ability score increase, and the magic item, while mid-level characters get a level and the item, and high-level characters just get an ability score increase and the magic item. And even though it's a random magic item, it's specifically a wondrous item in 5e and not an artifact or relic in AD&D, so the player character will never end up with a game-breaking item. Like all the cards thus far, this one definitely will not ruin your campaign. But speaking of ability scores, Star. Increase one of your ability scores by 2. The score can exceed 20, but can't exceed 24. Star. Immediately gain 2 points on your major ability. If the 2 points would place the character's score at 19, use one or both in any of the other abilities in this order. Constitution, Charisma, Wisdom, Dexterity, Intelligence, Strength. It's an ASI with a cap, but surprisingly still 2 points today when 2 ability score points are worth way more in 5e than they were in 1e. Automatically increasing your ability modifier and rolls by 1. Meanwhile, in AD&D, having anywhere from an 8 to a 16 strength score gives you a +0 to hit. Overall, this benefit is always positive, and I like the way it works in 5e, and it won't ruin your game. Idiot. Permanently reduce your intelligence by 1d4 + 1 to a minimum score of 1. You can draw 1 additional card beyond your declared draws. Idiot. Lose 1 to 4 points of intelligence, you may draw again. As indicated, the countenance causes loss of 1 to 4 d4 points of intelligence immediately. They are lost and cannot be regained, although points can be restored by other means. The additional draw is optional. Ignoring the very dated and offensive term Gygax just threw in there, this card is okay, but intelligence in D&D 5e is widely recognized as a useless ability score unless your character is a wizard or artificer. Then it's so important that you might not want to draw from the deck at all, because as it says here, the loss is permanent, suggesting that nothing you try will successfully restore those points. So my only change would be to maybe open that up to the possibility of being restored by a wish or a god, and also possibly changing it from intelligence to constitution, or adding a card that does the same thing for constitution, which would most likely affect everybody except wizards. Still, does one character losing a few points in one ability score ruin your campaign? Now here's a few quick ones that I don't have as much to say about. Moon. You are granted the ability to cast the wish spell 1d3 times. In AD&D, it was 1d4 wishes, and this is one of those 2 cards that I think could truly ruin your campaign, because a carefully worded wish could instantly take out the bad guy with little to no effort. But high risk should come with high reward, so I would leave this card as is. Euryale. This card's Medusa-like visage curses you. You take a -2 penalty on saving throws while cursed in this way. Only a god or the Magic of the Fates card can end this curse. In AD&D, it was a -3 on saving throws specifically against being petrified. So 5e made a great adjustment of opening it to all saving throws but reducing the penalty. Well done. Flames. A powerful devil becomes your enemy. The devil seeks your ruin and plagues your life, savoring your suffering before attempting to slay you. This enmity lasts until either you or the devil dies. In AD&D, it doesn't state that the devil ever tries to slay you, but 5e made it easier to end the enmity this way by having the devil eventually come to you, rather than forcing you to seek it out somewhere in the hells. Personally, I think this is a great card and exactly the kind of thing I expect to find in the deck. And no, I don't think one player character having a personal though powerful enemy would ruin your campaign. Similarly, Rogue. A non-player character of the GM's choice becomes hostile towards you. The identity of your new enemy isn't known until the NPC or someone else reveals it. Nothing less than a wish spell or divine intervention can end the NPC's hostility towards you. So it's like that Flames card, but only an NPC instead of a devil, and in AD&D it was specifically supposed to be the player character's henchman, or if they had no henchman, a powerful NPC. In either case, keeping their hatred secret until the time is ripe for devastating effect. Gem. 25 pieces of jewelry worth 2,000 gold pieces each, or 50 gems worth 1,000 gold pieces each, appear at your feet. The value was similar in AD&D, but that version also gave you an equivalent amount of experience points up to 1 level's worth. This leveling up part was obviously removed in the modern version, maybe for the same reasons we already talked about of milestone versus XP. Also, D&D 5e parties usually have more money than they know what to do with by like 5th or 6th level, so this card may not actually be super useful, though it's definitely a fun one to get, so it doesn't really need any changes, and of course it's really, really unlikely that getting a bunch of money will ruin your campaign. Key. A rare or rarer magic item with which you are proficient appears in your hands. The GM chooses the weapon. This card granted you a random weapon in AD&D, as well as a treasure map, which kind of created a bunch of work for the GM, so once again, Wizards of the Coast made good moves here by removing the map and letting the DM choose the weapon so it won't break your game. Talents. Every magic item you wear or carry disintegrates. Artifacts in your possession aren't destroyed, but do vanish. In AD&D, this also affected all the items you own, rather than only ones you're currently wielding, so pro tip for all the 5e players out there, drop all your magic items before you start drawing cards from the Deck of Many Things. But this might be the silliest card of all because technically, the Deck of Many Things would also vanish once you draw this card, and I don't know if that's intentional or not. Now here we go. Ruin. All forms of wealth that you carry or own, other than magic items, are lost to you. Portable property vanishes. Businesses, buildings, and land you own are lost in a way that alters reality the least. Any documentation that proves you should own something lost to this card also disappears. Same in AD&D, except Wizards added the part about documentation, which I find to be hilarious because it means at some point, one of Mike Merle's or Jeremy Crawford's or Chris Perkins' players was like, oh, I still have the deed to the keep, and they were able to get it back, and then the designer was like, oh, we gotta make sure that never works. But like I said earlier, wealth is usually not an issue in D&D 5e. So ironically, the Ruin card will definitely not ruin your game. Now each of these next few have some pretty interesting differences between their original and modern versions. Throne. You gain proficiency in the Persuasion skill and double your proficiency bonus on checks made with that skill. In addition, you gain rightful ownership of a small keep somewhere in the world. However, the keep is currently in the hands of monsters, which you must clear out before you can claim the keep as yours. Throne. Gain Charisma of 18 and small keep. If Charisma is 18 already, the individual still gains plus 25% on encounter and loyalty reactions. He or she becomes a real leader in the people's eyes. The castle gained will be near to any stronghold already possessed. Where AD&D gave you a great Charisma stat, real leadership, and a free keep, 5e gives you proficiency and expertise in the Persuasion skill and a keep that you have to clear out, so it's basically just still a dungeon and not actually yours. I guess they tried to summarize the ASI and leadership qualities by condensing them into this Persuasion increase, which is great by the way. But can we just be honest here that any keep in the game could be yours if you clear out the inhabitants? So this really doesn't give you a throne. And of course, it will not ruin your game. But here's another card that might. The Fates. Reality's fabric unravels and spins anew, allowing you to avoid or erase one event as if it never happened. You can use the card's magic as soon as you draw the card or at any other time before you die. Fates. Avoid any situation you choose once. This plaque enables the character to avoid even an instantaneous occurrence if so desired, for the fabric of reality is unraveled and respun, so to speak. Note that it does not allow something to happen, only not to take place. This reversal is for the individual character only, and the party must still endure the confrontation. So it seems to me like Wizards made this card way more powerful than it used to be. Gygax said this change in reality only occurs for one character, and it seemed like the point was just to get out of one monstrous encounter. So in AD&D, the potential of this card was far more limited. Today, it literally grants the player a single stroke of DM fiat, the ability to retcon any one moment, action, character, monster, item, anything at any time they choose. This could prevent the bad guy's birth, save a PC's life. It could prevent the world from being created, prevent an apocalypse from destroying it. Maybe, depending on your interpretation of a single event. However, a great player would hopefully use this card to save a loved one or prevent some other personal trauma for themselves or a loved one rather than undo the campaign. That's another player tip for you. Vizier. At any time you choose within 1 year of drawing this card, you can ask a question in meditation and mentally receive a truthful answer to that question. Besides information, the answer helps you solve a puzzling problem or other dilemma. In other words, the knowledge comes with the wisdom on how to apply it. Vizier. Know the answer to your next dilemma. This plaque empowers the character drawing it with the ability to call upon supernatural wisdom to solve any single problem or fully answer any question whenever he or she so requests. Whether the information gained can be successfully acted upon is another question entirely. So this is another card that Wizards made more powerful, but in a nice way. WotC specified that the knowledge comes with the wisdom on how to apply it, which is far more useful. And yeah, potentially campaign ending, because depending on the nature of your world's grand problem, a very cleverly worded question, similar to a cleverly worded wish, could give the party exactly the information they need to solve that grand problem. However, information isn't everything. They may know what they need to do or know how to do it, but they still have to do it, and that necessity of action is your adventure. Therefore, the campaign probably remains intact. And these last few cards also keep the campaign intact, but each one hinges on the importance of playing an individual heroic fantasy character. That's what 5e is all about. But AD&D had a different philosophy on the significance of player character mortality. Knight. You gain the service of a 4th level fighter who appears in a space you choose within 30 feet of you. The fighter is the same race as you and serves you loyally until death, believing the fates have drawn him or her to you. You control this character. Knight. Gain the service of a 4th level fighter. The hero will join as the character's henchman and loyally serve until death. The hero has +1 per die, 18 maximum on each ability roll. And the only problem here is that one player getting to run 2 fully fledged player characters means they always get more turns than everybody else. It means they have double the say of everyone else in a group decision, and in general they just get a bigger share of the spotlight. Now this can be okay in a lot of campaigns where characters may already have animal companions or familiars or sidekicks, and in old school D&D, a big thing was having henchmen and retainers. So maybe it's just me, but I think it would be weird to be in a game where one player just gets to have 2 main characters. At least it's a good backup character if you pull this next card. Skull. You summon an Avatar of Death, a ghostly humanoid skeleton clad in a tattered black robe and carrying a spectral scythe. It appears in a space of the DM's choice within 10 feet of you and attacks you, warning all others that you must win the battle alone. The Avatar fights until you die or it drops to 0 hit points, whereupon it disappears. If anyone tries to help you, the helper summons its own Avatar of Death. Creature slain by an Avatar of Death can't be restored to life. Skull. Defeat death or be forever destroyed. A minor death appears. AC -4, 33 hit points, strikes with a scythe for 2 to 16 hit points, never missing, always striking first in a round, and the character must fight it alone. If others help, they get minor deaths to fight as well. If the character is slain, he or she is slain forever. Treat the death as undead with respect to spells. Cold or fire do not harm it, neither does electrical energy. So it should be obvious here, but permanent character death is not very popular among D&D players. A while back, I ran this poll and learned that about half of D&D players, regardless of their year's experience with the game, think that character death is not even necessary for the game to feel dangerous and exciting. People generally don't like it when their characters die. That's why 5e has way more hit points, healing spells, healing features, and ways to revive characters than any previous edition of the game. Now, the 5e Avatar of Death is not very difficult to fight, but it does automatically hit with its single attack. If your character has multi-attack or more than 20 hit points, you're probably fine, but you're at the mercy of the dice, and your opponent is not. So this would be a pretty unfair way to permanently kill a player character. And in that worst case scenario, it doesn't end your campaign, it just really sucks for that one player, and the other players may be rightly pretty demoralized depending on how much they had invested in that one character. These last 2 cards have a similar impact, but they do provide a chance for redemption. Donjon. You disappear and become entombed in a state of suspended animation in an extra-dimensional sphere. Everything you were wearing and carrying stays behind in the space you occupied when you disappeared. You remain imprisoned until you are found and removed from the sphere. You cannot be located by any divination magic, but a wish spell can reveal the location of your prison. You draw no more cards. Donjon. You are imprisoned. This signifies imprisonment, either by spell or by some creature/being at your option. All gear and spells will be stripped from the victim in any case. Campaign ending? No. Campaign derailing for a while so the party can locate and retrieve this character? Yes. In this case though, the affected player should definitely use a backup character who can join in the rescue mission. Or another player keeps drawing cards until they get a wish. The 5e wording is odd, but as far as I can tell, you can wish them back with this card. Not this next card. The Void. This black card spells disaster. Your soul is drawn from your body and contained in an object in a place of the GM's choice. One or more powerful beings guard the place. While your soul is trapped in this way, your body is incapacitated. A wish spell can't restore your soul, but the spell reveals the location of the object that holds it. You draw no more cards. The Void. Body functions, but soul is trapped elsewhere. This lightless black plaque spells instant disaster. The character's body functions, and he or she speaks like an automaton, but the psyche is trapped in a prison somewhere, in an object, on a far planet or plane, possibly in the possession of a demon. A wish will not bring the character back, but the plane of entrapment might be revealed. Little spoiler for the epilogue of Critical Role Campaign 1, this is famously the last card that their Goliath Barbarian Grog pulls from the deck, which led to the cast running a separate one-shot adventure to save his soul. Anyway, the character is technically still playable in AD&D, where the body functions and the character speaks like an automaton, and that could be fun to play for a while. But these few cards, which essentially remove a player character from the game, are in my opinion the worst threats to the party. It could be devastating for a player and very tricky for the DM to decide where exactly the soul ends up and what the party must do to get it back. But at the same time, these incredible, unexpected challenges are exactly what the Deck of Many Things should be known for, not ruining or destroying the campaign. Creating wild scenarios and spontaneous adventures that you and your group will always remember. And if you agree, please give this video a like, share it with your game group, and check out this other video where we learn about character creation in AD&D. Your likes and shares and comments all really help, so thank you for your support, and keep building.